Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Beers and Bullshit. Once again, I'm your host, Cole. Thank you guys for joining us here. Today, I got a real pleasure. I'm going to have a good friend of mine on, Job Niewenhuis. Job also new in-house. If you want to go ahead and break that down.
Heyo.
If you want to break that down a little bit more, make it a little bit easier to spell and pronounce, Job's a really good friend of mine here. So welcome to the show, Job. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Been looking forward to doing this for a while.
Of course, man. Of course. Obviously, these first few episodes, that we're kind of getting out, it's kind of the dream list of people I've wanted to talk to. Last time on the show, we had Ty Brown, good friend of mine from Illinois, moved out here to South Dakota, talked about Jeeps, love life, and just kind of everything else going on with him in the Black Hills here. We got Job joining us today. Job's from Aberdeen, South Dakota, hanging out with us, and we'll dive a little bit more into him here shortly. But once again, as always, we're going to go ahead and kick off our beer endorsement of the week. So right now, we are drinking on the Left Hand Peanut Butter Milk Stout. And I'll tell you what, whether you like dark beers or not, this is going to be the beer, hands down, to drink. I mean, it's smooth, it's sweet, it's fantastic. Joe, why'd you pick this beer?
I picked it because I've heard nothing but good things about Left Hand Brewing. They're out of Longmont, Colorado, and I've just got some friends who love pretty much everything that comes from them. And, peanut butter and beer, two things I like. I figured they might not go well together, but give it a shot. Turns out to be pretty damn good.
I've been pleasantly surprised for sure with the Left Hand Milk Stout. I had a good familiarity with this beer from my time in Las Vegas, working at Yard House, which is a restaurant out there, kind of specializes in a variety of beer. Ended up having about 150 beers on draft at the time, and Left Hand Milk Stout, the Peanut Butter Milk Stout, was probably always one of our more consistent beers that we had on, and it was always one of our best sellers too. You usually don't get a lot of negative attention or negative beers coming from Colorado brewing companies, though.
I haven't really heard anything negative about them either, but not very well versed on the breweries out there, though.
Oh, of course. When you kind of live in South Dakota, especially most or all of your life, like we have, it's a little warped as far as the beer. If they don't have Bud Light, Coors Light, or Miller Light on draft, usually that's considered out of the box there. So to go with something like a peanut butter milk stout from Left Hand is definitely something new.
Yeah, I'm usually a Bud Light person myself. I don't personally like IPAs or like the really dark beers, so this was a pleasant surprise that milk stout's it's creamy and sweet and good for me. So
exactly, yeah, it's going to be something you could throw a scoop of ice cream to, do a nice beer float.
Never heard that before.
Oh, you've never tried a beer float?
No.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Huh.
Yeah, get a little bit of vanilla ice cream, and then you get something like this in, like a peanut butter milk stout, a sweeter beer. We also had a beer, it was called the Littman's Framboise. It was a raspberry kind of liqueur beer, very light in alcohol, about 3%, and the best beer floats are made with that, though.
Interesting.
Yeah, sometime when you venture to probably a little area that is well versed in beer, a little bit more well versed than ours, definitely check it out. But we're going to run that back again. That is the Left Hand Brewing Company with the peanut butter milk stout out of Longmont, Colorado. As well, we're going to go ahead and stop to thank some sponsors and just people who kind of make the show happen, big supporters of the show. We're always going to shout out Top Wave Studios, Mr. Paul Wolf. How you doing? We also have Teddy's Sports Bar and Grill in downtown Rapid City. Liberty Superstores, who employs like half the people who come on this podcast. So, we just want to go ahead and give a shout out, say thank you for the local businesses in this trying time that's been going on throughout COVID in 2020 and 2021. But we're going to go ahead and just dive right in here. Joe from Aberdeen, South Dakota, let's just go ahead and hear a little bit about you.
So, from Aberdeen, there's 25,000 people there, so not a very large town by any means. We do have three schools. A Class AA and an A and a B. So we got all those sports brackets covered.
And so you have three schools. I believe there's Aberdeen Central, Aberdeen Roncalli, and then what is that last little school that you got there?
Aberdeen Christian, where I graduated from. Graduating class was 6 people, myself and 5 girls. So definitely an interesting experience, to say the least.
It has to be an interesting class dynamic because you are the popular class. Like, you are the jock at that point.
Yep, I'm the jock and the nerd. It had its perks. Walk-on homecoming king. You're automatic captain of any sport you want to go out for because you're the only senior. So,
just go out for the chess team, not even knowing like a lick of chess moves, just so you could be captain of the team.
Yep, I'd win every single match, I bet, because probably wouldn't have anyone else in it.
Well, yeah, what are the other 18 students in the school going to be like super competitive against you?
Yeah, about, I think 42, but that was like 7th grade through senior.
Oh, geez.
So. Yeah, we were all in the same building with 5 classrooms. There's 5 classrooms and then a center place with all the lockers. And yeah, all in one building. It was very weird.
And so that's crazy for me, just because probably on a global scale aspect, I mean, you're talking like bigger cities like Los Angeles and Las Vegas that have thousands, if not tens of thousands of kids in their school at any time just going through 4 grades. I didn't have to that excess, but I did go to the largest school in South Dakota, in Central High School, with a graduating class above 600. And it's hilarious. I've actually met people still here in Rapid City after I graduated high school that I had no idea. They were literally sitting there in that same room. They got their name called the same day I did. We went to high school probably together and maybe even middle school, but there were still people I didn't know from my graduating class. So for you to literally be on a first last name, like I know your mom, I know your dad basis with everybody you graduated with, is just kind of crazy for a lot of people to wrap their heads around.
Oh yeah, everybody knows your personal life. That's the thing, is it's like, when you live in the same house and your brothers and sisters know everything about you. No, it's everybody you come into contact with every day knows pretty much everything about your life.
Well, and I believe that was really interesting for you because with the dynamic of having 5 other girls in that class, obviously the dating options are rather slim. So you dated one of those girls, and in the situation where it doesn't work out, how does that play out?
Yeah, so it ended up not working out. And that was a trip because, girls kind of, they go to the bathroom together, they do everything together. So they kind of just cling with one another. So when that ended up falling through, all of them kind of just, I wouldn't want to say turned against me. I don't want to throw all of them under the bus, but they were all my friends before this whole fling happened. And then it kind of turned into silence for a while there.
Yeah, it's kind of like the literal definition of like don't shit where you eat, because even in that situation, like dating in friend groups is hard in general, as we probably learned as adults.
I never learn. But
I can only hope not to learn from my lessons, but just to fail even better the next time. So,
yep. So to your same point of don't shit where you eat, what do you know? Got a girlfriend from work.
Right.
So
yeah, we can kind of move on to that, because obviously after Aberdeen, you go to SDSU right away, correct? South Dakota State University in Brookings, home of the Jackrabbits.
Oh yeah, excellent party school, by the way.
Fantastic. I hear their academics aren't too bad too, but what would we ever know about that?
Oh yeah, I didn't pay attention to the academics for pretty much the first 2 years, and it kind of bit me in the ass. But it's whatever. Had a good time.
Well, I mean, that's always, I think, the point of college, too, obviously, besides going out and getting a degree. But you see a lot of people in our generation not actually go out and get that degree, and they just speak as college as more of an experience, as more of a time where they had fun. Like, from my time at Black Hill State, I can say I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things. Not a lot of them were academic.
Right. You learn a lot, like, especially coming from the small school that I came from. It's like moving out of my house in the first year and then not being that. I'm not an alpha male by any means, but not being like the oldest dude, like the most respected person. You pretty much go to a big school and there's all these people around you. So you got to figure out like social aspects. I was a social butterfly back in our school. I get to SCSU in the first 3 months. I'd just like zip my lips, stay in my room, like don't know what the heck to do. Because I've never had to make new friends since like kindergarten.
Well, it was a lot easier when you probably just went to a barbecue and you're like, hey, we go to school together. Yeah. All right, we're friends.
Cool.
Because it was a lot easier when we were kids. When I was going to a smaller elementary school where there was maybe 1 or 2 classes of the same grade, we were a little bit more divided and everybody was kind of based on their side of town. Yeah, it was a lot easier to make friends then. But yeah, you go from a high school of 42 kids, 7th through 12th grade, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're at this school of 20+ thousand, students, and you're just kind of thrown into the middle. It must have been a shock at first.
Yeah, but it's a Division One. They had Division One athletics, but it was still small enough where you would see the same people every day. So it was a perfect size, I think, for the social aspect of it. But definitely a learning experience. I didn't end up getting a degree. I ended up dropping out after my junior year. Got 2 years done in a matter of 3 years. But it's on track for that 5-year super senior life, but never quite made it there.
Yeah, it could be worse, man. There's kids who are still out there just going to school, just putting the money away and just getting degrees that kind of didn't matter. So at least you kind of bounced out and, realized what you wanted to do at the time, or, realized that maybe college wasn't the route at that time, because I feel like me personally, that was something I was maybe geared towards or forced into.
Oh yeah.
And not that I really regret going to college, but at the same time, as I continue to pay my student loans off, I'm just like, how much was this really actually worth my time at the end of the day? Like, could I have maybe partied up at Black Hills State while not being a student?
Exactly. Well, you're always pushed, whether it's the guidance counselors or the parents or even your friends' parents or even your friends who have these big plans. You meet these people who are like, I'm going to go here for 4 years. I'm going to either get a job doing this or I'm going to go get my master's degree doing this. And then there's people like us who go to college because it's the next step. We go in thinking we know what to do, but at the same time really don't know what we want to do. And it's just a lot of debt for a lot of people. And people think it's bad that you dropped out of college, but the fact that you went in the first place was a blessing in itself. But at the same time, it's a curse because you and I are both 25, 26, still paying on student loans that we got out of school when we were 19. So definitely wish I would have taken a gap year. I wish that's something that counselors would push, is take a gap year, save up some money, figure out what the heck you want to do, figure out the social aspect of not having to go to school every day. Because when I was 18 years old, if I don't have to go to school, I'm going to play video games 8 hours a day.
Oh,
so
hands
like,
down.
whether college is like, well, you have these classes, you have, 3 hours of classes every day, and you're supposed to do homework. That's like nothing compared to the 8 hours you used to put in high school. But
And I think that's important too because I kind of took a gap year. I didn't go to college right away after I graduated. Kind of got myself finagled in a little bit of a fun situation with someone with a kid, and so I kind of really grew up. I would say the first 9 months to a year after I graduated high school, it was like because you kind of go about this route when you're younger, and everybody knows this. You go about this route of just day after day after day. You're going to school, and then maybe you work your weekend job, but everything is pretty set in stone. And I feel that college is a half step from there. It teaches kids to kind of go out, be a little bit more independent in their own right, but also at the same time, like you're still living with the set price for rent for the dorm. You know, you pay that a year in advance, and most likely you're either getting it on scholarship or you're getting loans taken out for that. And everything is still very much on a schedule. You go to breakfast at this time, you go to lunch at this time, dinner, and that's fantastic for everybody who wants to go to college, and it's a good transition for 18-year-olds, but also I think there's just nothing like pure life experience if you don't want to go to college. Yeah, and you stay that year at home, or you end up getting a small shitty apartment, off of your $10 an hour job that you're working down at fucking Claire's or whatever. Because I know at the time when I was 19 years old, I was working at NEW, which was a DirecTV call center, $10 an hour, and I had my own one-bedroom apartment for $500 a month. And for me at the time, that was living. That was the greatest. And I look back now and I'm like, I made less than $2,000 a month. How did I budget anything? How did I even survive?
we don't budget 18 to 22. You don't really.
Oh,
budget.
no, I never did.
I don't, at least.
Yeah, and then I wonder why I got a credit card, went in debt right away. And I'm just like, I wonder why. Because to even backtrack on high school, they don't teach you these things at all.
No, not at all. Personal finance is how to balance a checkbook. Who the heck uses a checkbook anymore?
Yeah, and
I have one, but I just use it to enter routing numbers and stuff when I'm paying online.
When I'm really anxious about my bills, I just go through my bank account and then I add them all up on a sticky note and then I throw that sticky note away and then I try to do it again in a month or two, even though it's the same. I should probably keep it around. I'm learning at 26, but probably not at the rate that some other people are.
we should know these things by now, but
it's what makes life interesting, right? Mistakes, gotta have them. So. Well, fun talk about college there, and obviously we could probably jump back on that or just go on it for hours.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously you get out of college, and then what is your steps from there leaving SDSU?
So it was a weird situation because I was going for nursing school, got all my pre-nursing, my prerequisites done for that, and so I applied to nursing school, and they said only the top students get in Brookings, where SDSU is located. Pretty much everyone else moves out to Rapid City, and they have a small program out here with the same classes, pretty much same everything. So I just doubled down and only applied for Rapid City, figuring I'd probably get it. And so it's a weird situation where I was waiting to hear back if I got in, but my lease was up in Brookings. And they don't do month to month in Brookings, they only do year long. Because of all the students, it's definitely a college town. So I'd either A, not have a place to live for a month or two, or B, I could just move out to Rapid City, assuming that I would get in. And so I moved out to Rapid City with a couple of guys that I knew from back home. That was also a very interesting situation because I'm a gamer. I'm a hardcore gamer, but I don't play World of Warcraft. And these guys were next level. If you've ever seen the South Park episode, I can't remember what it's called.
Make love, not Warcraft.
Make love, not Warcraft. Yep. I'm not going to get into details of the episode, but basically, you sit there for hours playing World of Warcraft, and these guys were smart dudes, like engineering. They all have engineering degrees now. They all make a bunch of money doing all that. But in all their free time, they would play World of Warcraft. So, like, I'd bring a girl over to come hang out, and they would just shut their doors.
Oh, I think that was probably one of my favorite things was when you and Caitlin were first dating, and we'll kind of catch up to this, but I'm just going to drop this story here. When you and Caitlin first started dating, it was hilarious because I think there was one day where she offered to do all of your laundry while you were working. And so you just I think you guys spent the night at your place and you left for work and she was only a little bit of ways and she calls me like 2 hours in and she's like, so I'm doing Job's laundry. And this is really weird because none of his roommates will talk to me. like she had like gone out and like the roommate like went to the bathroom and like didn't even look or anything, but they were just shut into their doors the whole time. And so obviously being a gamer, I can respect the grind, but it was kind of hilarious that Job is just in this house and I'm like, they're scared or he's like, I don't know what's going on, man, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. But along that same line, so for a couple months I worked at the jail. Okay?
Love this.
I get to Rapid City. I know no one. I crashed my car within the first week. So I have no friends. I have no car. And I'm working at the jail. So in order to make friends, what do most people do? They go to work. They find friends at work. I can't do that. All my coworkers are inmates. So like I'm just the boss of these inmates. And then I go home. It's like, yeah, what the heck do I do with my day? So after hating my life for a couple months, decided to get a job at Olive Garden, which I still have that job at Olive Garden. Shout out Olive Garden.
Shout out Darden Restaurants.
Yep. Awesome place to work. The atmosphere there was phenomenal. A little bit has changed. I still love the atmosphere, but there was nothing like when I first started there. We had such a prime crew. Everybody was so awesome. And in my first couple days, Cole had just gotten back from a knee injury. And we're sitting in line. He's like, hey, do you want to hang out after work? And I'm like, okay, sure. And I went home. I hadn't hung out with anybody in like 3 months. I was more nervous for hanging out with Cole than I was for my first date with Caitlin.
It's so funny when you tell the story to this day because I still remember it. Because, yeah, I had probably been out of work like 3 weeks a month because I had just re-aggravated an old knee injury while I was at work. So I was on workman's comp. And I had just been sitting at home doing nothing. I had a couple of roommates who hung out with me, but still at the end of the day, I mean, I was just bored out of my mind. And so the first night I get back, we're serving, and I think it's one of your first nights on the floor, and we're just sitting waiting for the checkout line, just waiting to get our receipts checked, turn in the cash, so on and so forth. If you're a server, you know what it is. And we're just sitting there talking, and I'm just like, fuck it, man, what are you doing after this? He's like, nothing, man. And he kind of tells me, he's like, I just live with a bunch of dudes who game all the time. I'm just going to go home and game. I'm like, well, do you want to come over and hang out? And he was just like, yeah, sure. And so, yeah, I got home and told the boys, I was like, yo, you got a buddy coming by. And I think you came by, we hung out for like 3-4 hours. And I don't know, you've been one of my best friends ever since, but it's just kind of crazy to look at like these like meet you stories and kind of where everybody is at the time in their life. Cause it's just funny to look back and like realize it.
5 years ago?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah. A long time ago. Cause it would have been almost 6 years ago now because it would have been 15 that happened because, yeah, I was just retracing like this whole year.
Yeah, I just turned 21.
Yeah. So crazy times going at the good old Garden of Olives. And so, yeah, you started working there and we kind of started developing this little bit of a crew of sorts when we were working there because at the time, like you said, the staff was just legendary as far as like, kind of those close-knit restaurant communities, almost like you see on the movie Waiting with the appropriate amount of dick jokes. There's still that amount of dick jokes. I just don't flash my balls at anybody.
Some people do.
Some people do. I just choose not to because I'm not a kitchen member. Shout out to the kitchen members, but y'all are a bunch of fucking outlaws.
Different breed.
Different breed for sure. I mean, you know that from working your time in the kitchen and kind of being someone who helps run the restaurant now, you obviously have gotten to see all sides of it. But, I mean, just a motley crew as far as who we had. We had awesome servers. I mean, everybody pretty much got along for the most part. we would hold these impromptu bowling nights on Wednesdays. They have cheap bowling out here at Meadowwood Lanes over on the west side. And it's like $6 for like all you can bowl, super cheap drinks. And it was just a good time for a bunch of broke ass college and non-college kids to kind of go out and have a good time. And we would get like 30, 40 people from our restaurant that employed like 70, 80 people. We get like half the staff to show up to some of these nights. So it was awesome. And from there, we kind of formed our own subgroup because obviously over time we got Tristan and Ben, who you guys will probably meet at some point on this show.
The boys.
And then we picked up a straggler from Hill City named Caitlin. So go into how you met Caitlin and kind of where that evolved from there.
That's my girl.
She was our straggler first, right? She was all of ours before she was yours.
Oh, yeah. It was... Yeah, so she got a job serving. I was fresh out the gate. I had only been serving like 2 months. And I was still at the point where it's like I try to get through every day without messing something up. Like, still very rookie at that.
I think that's still serving for me in general. I just quit the job a year ago, and that was probably my goal every single shift. If I cannot fuck up or get yelled at once today, it's a good shift.
Right. So, her first day of training, I see her, think she's cute and everything, but then I go to Hobo Days. I went back to SDSU to hang out with some friends, go to Hobo Days, which is their homecoming, pretty much, in Brookings. So, drink, have fun. I come back, and I come into Tristan's apartment, I think it is. It's just like, I plan on coming in, hey boys, what's up? I'm back. We're going to hang out, drink some beers, do whatever. And Caitlin is sitting in there hanging out with them. And I was just like, okay, I've never talked to her. I kind of clammed up a little bit, but eventually I warmed up. I felt there was a little competition between me and Ben, one of our friends, for Caitlin. He says there was no competition, but...
She says there was no competition, but I don't even know if you call it competition because Ben brought her around at first, and then like 2 days in, it was like little brother, little sister vibes. So it was like never, it stopped before it even started. And that was kind of the funny thing about it because right away when Caitlin was brought in, I don't even think you were there the first night. So we all go out drinking. It's me, Ben, Tristan, and Caitlin, and she was our DD. And I love you, Caitlin. She's sitting here while we're recording this too. But the first night, I was like, this woman annoys the fuck out of me. We're sitting at Perkins. I'm like on the downturn of being drunk. So I'm like in that pissy, like I just want to go home and go to bed mood. And she's just talking at Perkins. And Ben's just like, oh, what'd you guys think of Caitlin? And I'm just sitting there like, man. And then lo and behold, she's definitely one of my best friends, probably my best female friend ever, dating my best friend. I definitely helped hook her and Job up. Just because, as he was saying, he was a little bashful, a little shy at first. And me being ever the antagonizer that I am, sometimes you just got to get that rod hot and poke somebody in the ass and just move them forward a little bit.
I'm glad you did.
I'm
Here
glad
we
I
are
did too.
4 years later.
4 years, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a lifetime full of memories.
We got a zoo.
That'd be fantastic, though. You guys should get a zoo at some point. Like,
Pretty much zoo. 2 dogs, 2 cats in a tiny apartment. It's the life.
You can go more. Just buy land, get yourself a giraffe. Maybe not a giraffe. That's like later on down the road. But just get some more animals.
I think a raccoon would be a cool pet.
Oh, pet raccoons are fantastic if you train them right.
A little trash panda. You'd have to name him Miko from Pocahontas.
Oh, hands down.
Or Bandit. That'd be a pretty good one, too.
Bandit would be a really good one because I think of the raccoon meme, like the one where his fingers are together.
Yeah.
And I think that guy's name is Bandit, like the little mischievous raccoon. You're like, oh, but I love him because he's kind of cute, even though he'd probably fuck me up if he got angry.
Has to be.
So going to the zoo here, let's go ahead and break down the zoo because, of course, we have the original one. We have Ollie. Tell us a little bit about Ollie.
So Ollie is our beagle. He's 3 years old, and he is, I'm biased, but I think he's the cutest dog ever. He's super floppy, like super mild-mannered. Like he just wants to sleep all day and cuddle all day, and he's the best. So we got Ollie as our male dog, and then we just got a female dog named Suki. She's a Australian Shepherd.
Love the name, by the way.
Right, straight off of Avatar: Last Airbender. But she's an Australian Shepherd Border Collie mix, so we're thinking she's going to be really smart, but if she's anything like Ollie, she's probably not going to be. I love the dog, but he's not very smart. Other than that, we have Morty, our cat. He's an orange tabby cat. And then Blue is our gray, I don't know what she is. She's a poofy cat, though.
Blue is poofy. She's absolutely fantastic. She's a cuddle bug, but she's also a little bit of a psychopath too,
Dude,
because she will do the most random shit.
well, she sleeps in such weird positions, but she's so good with the new dog. The new dog will tackle her, bite her ears and everything, and this cat just lets her do it. It's pretty nice, actually.
Well, yeah, it's nice to kind of have animals like that. And when I saw you guys got a new dog, I didn't really fret about it too much because it was like, well, obviously Ollie, love him to death, but yeah, he's just a cuddle bug. I mean, guard dog is not the first word I would use to describe Ollie. I mean, he'll let you know somebody's there. You know, you're
Classic hound dog.
yeah, the classic beagle howl. But yeah, I don't think he's really going to be attacking anybody. But yeah, it's just kind of nice to have those pets to level it all together, and especially when you bring a new one into the fold.
I was so nervous when we got our first dog. I was like, I couldn't sleep. I'm like, what are we going to do? We have a living animal that's under our care now. Like, what are we going to do with this? And then just kind of realized that you just kind of let them do their own thing and love them when you want. And that's how easy pets are. I used to make the comparison between pets and children, but it's a terrible comparison. I don't have kids. I don't think anybody in this room has kids. So I can't make a proper comparison, but
Not that I know of, anyways.
right? Hopefully not.
Yeah, God, could you imagine if there's a little Cole just running around unchecked out there? Some little badass kid with a mouth on him.
You know he'd have to be badass.
Oh, hands down.
But with this new puppy, we've had this puppy for a month. But waking up anywhere from 4 to 8 times a night to let the dog out, I can't imagine having a kid and doing that for years, let alone changing diapers. Like, oh, I don't know.
I hear at some point they get out of that and they actually become worthwhile. That's what my dad told me. He told me that about the time 7, 8 came around, I actually started being a positive because I can mow the yard and stuff, and I wasn't, just shitting and pissing all the time.
But then it's like 7 or 8 years of raising a child, or you just want to buckle down and go to school and make some money out of it.
I'm sure you can make money off of kids. It's just not legal.
Well, yeah, you got to raise your kids to want to go to school, make a lot of money, so they can take care of you when you retire. That's the goal of children.
Oh, 100%. I'm hoping my kids are hella athletically inclined. Like, one of you just needs to get to the NBA, NFL. Shit, I'd even take the MLS. Major League Soccer money is probably getting to be a couple $100,000. I just need to retire a little early. Give me 5 years off my retirement plan right now, and you're good.
Would you want your kids playing football, though? With all the recent studies with head injury and everything, I know you played football. I didn't personally play football because my older brother blew out his knee in the first day of practice, and I did not want anything to do with that. Wasn't a big football fan at the time, but now that I'm an avid NFL fan, I love the game. I regret not playing it in high school. But at the same time, didn't get any concussions or head injuries.
So that's kind of the crazy part for me is I have a little bit of a warped view on it just because I obviously did play football. I mean, not anything of note, just high school football in South Dakota. So you can hardly say that's the pros or the show, as you call it. But yeah, during my time there, it kind of effed up my knees a little bit. History of concussions that I would probably say maybe has something to do with my lack of memory. But, let's not assume that until, they can do the test, which is afterwards on CTE. But I don't know. I'm very 50-50 on it because on the one hand, man, it is my favorite sport. I love football to death. We're going to go ahead and cover it time and time and time again on this channel. But also at the same time, just the damage toll it took on me and I've seen it take on other people. I wouldn't say that I would ever tell my kid not to, but also at the same time, I'd never be one of those parents that like overly pushes it on my kid just because of my love for it.
Right? Hey, you can play football as long as you're the quarterback.
Actually, no, he gets hit all the time, bro. Defense, all right? If I'm going to raise a kid, he's going to be the perpetrator, not the victim, all right? Like, yeah. Listen, if his head's going to hurt, he's going to fucking make somebody else hurt for it too, all right?
Fair.
I play defense too. My kid's not going to be no pussy quarterback. That's the one thing I will be straight on. He's going to be like, Dad, I can throw the ball. I'm like, I don't care. You better learn how to fucking run it. No, but I mean, I'll let my kids do whatever they want at the end of the day. But I think it is smart to at least understand the aspect of the head trauma because body damage can happen in any sport. I mean, kids get into wrestling, kids get into MMA fighting nowadays at a super young age, which is crazy. But I mean, whatever you want to do with your kids, cool. But basketball, soccer, I mean, all of these sports can cause injuries. The only unique thing about football that's kind of coming out is the mental aspect of it, and everything we've seen probably in the past 10 years, Concussion with Will Smith is a good movie to watch if you guys haven't really gotten into so much on the brain study and kind of everything that goes on with concussions and repeated trauma. But just kind of cut her short, great movie to watch and really opens your eyes to the game that we're watching and kind of how it's evolved to make players a lot safer and make sure that they do survive a lot longer. Because for a while, football players were actually second only to pro wrestlers in average lifespan as far as lowest.
Dang.
Yep. And pro wrestlers obviously infamous because of the trauma, the body issues, the drug addiction, everything in that industry. But you saw a lot of it go unchecked in football for the longest time.
Yeah, I watched a interview with Joe Rogan and Arian Foster. Arian Foster was if you all don't know, a great running back for the Houston Texans for quite a few years, but he retired early.
I think he was probably 29 or 30 when he retired. He was rather young even for a running back.
But he did get one big deal under his belt, and then after that, he decided to be done. And he was saying that he doesn't want his kids playing football. He's like, I put my body on the line to make all this money. You have a trust fund for that. You don't have to play football. Go do something else.
And I think that's a good aspect to have. I mean, obviously, if you're going to play the sport, I think we're seeing athletes a lot more nowadays have that mentality. They're using the money for what's good instead of, ruining it. Because I remember watching the documentary Broke, which is a 30 for 30. Probably came out about 10 years ago, but it kind of analyzed professional athletics and the money that is just wasted by these players and how they're taken advantage of and everything. And I feel like that's a lot better nowadays. So you see athletes and their kids and future generations not have to play the sport. But at the same time, I almost counter that a little bit because I don't feel like you should be able to force or not force not unforced, but like hold your kid away from doing anything. I think it's really unfair to play football yourself and then say my kids can't play football. Be like, I don't want them to play football, but at the end of the day, like I've always just been someone for freedom of expression, even though I'm not a parent. So this advice is coming from no ground.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at we had the Super Bowl last weekend, the Chiefs against the Buccaneers, and Antoine Winfield Jr. Plays defense for the Buccaneers. His dad was a longtime Minnesota Viking, played safety for us for a long time. But his one son plays football now. He's a rookie, won a Super Bowl ring his first year, and Winfield was in the league for 15, 16 years, maybe more. Didn't win a single ring. Well, that's what happens when you play for Minnesota.
And Buffalo, too, because Winfield actually doubled down. He got drafted by Buffalo and then went to Minnesota in free agency and never ended up making a Super Bowl. Going to correct you a little bit. He played corner. His son plays safety. But still, Winfield, very easy to confuse, though, because there was actually about 3 straight years he was the Vikings' leading tackler. And you see the same kind of tenacity and ferociousness out of his kid because Junior is a very good playmaker in that Buccaneers secondary, but also very physical. And actually, I am a huge fan of him after this last week in Super Bowl, strictly because earlier in the season, Tyreek Hill burned him for a touchdown, and Tyreek Hill is famous for throwing up the deuces on people whenever he burns them for a touchdown. So when Winfield late in the game broke up a pass, a jump ball that was one-on-one against Tyreek Hill, he flashed the deuces right in his face and ended up getting a little bit of a personal foul penalty for it. But I cannot say I wouldn't do the same thing.
Oh yeah, you have to, especially when you're on that stage with those people. Like, all those superstars are, I don't know if cocky is the right word. It might be.
Well, ego is so involved at that point because you have to be of strong mind. I believe in pro sports. It's anything outside of body too, because you've seen mentally weak players fizzle out of the league.
Oh yeah. And then you also see it's just funny that he got the taunting foul for not even saying anything, just throwing up deuces. Then you have Tyrann Mathieu talking trash and obviously getting flagged for that. But it's just so funny that you get flagged for pretty much the same thing, but one of them involved words and one didn't even.
And that's a crazy thing with the taunting penalty because I'm such a person being a Raiders fan. I believe the moxie and the spirit of the game is in shit talking. It's in the trash talking. As long as it doesn't go too far, it erupts into violence. For the period that the NFL didn't have like the touchdown celebrations, I found that so ludicrous. I'm like, you are literally driving off of ratings. Why wouldn't you want your game to be more exciting? Well, they got their head out of their ass and they figured that out. But it's the kind of the same thing with taunting. While I don't promote being a bad sport, at the same time, like you have to realize these are the top tier of athletes in the entire world are people who play in American sports. Call me biased, but I mean, even the Olympics doesn't really rival what the Super Bowl does. Like, I mean, and you see that on pure viewership alone. And so it's like when you get these athletes with these egos in this sport, which is extremely violent, physical, and competitive, I think it's awesome. I love it.
It's great. It makes for good TV, that's for sure.
Exactly. And what doesn't make better for sports than to have a storyline in there, to add a little bit of theatrics, a little bit of the theater, to throw something in there that has some background, because you can then look back at week 12 whenever they played and it's just Tyree getting his due comeuppance, but obviously the ref doesn't see it that way.
Right? Not at all. They only see what's right in front of them at the time, which is good. I feel like the officiating for that game was okay. I mean, the Chiefs got called for everything.
It was a Tom Brady involved Super Bowl, so obviously the bias was to one side, but I wouldn't say that had a difference on the impact of the game. Could have been closer, but
yeah, it really didn't have an impact. I looked it up, it was the only Super Bowl to not have a touchdown by one team since the 72 Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
The only other team not to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And that's just crazy to me that the Chiefs, with that high-powered of an offense, didn't score a touchdown. Yes, Mahomes had a small toe injury, but that hasn't stopped him before.
What is it? So it was hilarious because someone even brought it up because it's turf toe, which is a torn plantar fascia plate. If I'm butchering that, I'm sorry, but it's a torn plate in your foot. Very, very painful, but still manageable and still able to play on. And it's just so funny because I've heard it regarded as turf toe the entire time I've just been an NFL fan, but only when Patrick Mahomes catches it, is it a torn plantar fascia. So
always extra. I wish the NFL would, just kind of like the NBA, let the players, yes, they let the players do stuff with their cleats and stuff, but I wish I could see more like colorful socks and stuff like RG3 used to have. But I think as long as you're wearing the main uniform, you should be able to wear crazy accessories.
Oh, 100%. I think the NFL, and we could probably have a podcast alone on just of things the NFL can learn from the NBA, because Adam Silver, the human penis looking man that he is, humus penis, sounds like it's Latin.
He looks like Slender Man.
Yeah, he looks like a 7-foot dick, but at the same time, he's probably the greatest commissioner in all of sports. Like, I love Adam Silver. Like, Adam Silver is just like that homie who's in the background, just like, yeah, do whatever you want. He's like, yeah, you want to go ahead and smoke weed? You know what? Most of the nation's legalizing it. Go right ahead. You know what? You guys want to go ahead and promote some, justice messages on the back of your shirts, whatever your opinion on those are. Go right ahead. He allows players their freedom of expression. To where the NFL, it's just like, oh, you are literally putting on cleats that's going to go ahead and help a cancer patient? Fine, $25,000.
Yeah, and it's just listening to the players. And the NBA, it's easier in the NBA because there's a fraction of the amount of players as in the NFL. So their Players Association has a lot more say.
And a lot more top-heavy, too. Like, the stars carry that league. Like, obviously, you can compare Tom Brady and LeBron James as, I'm going to say arguably, even though I don't think at this point it's really arguable for either of them. They're the greatest active players in either sport right now. And LeBron, I would say, has leagues more power in the NBA than Tom Brady does in the NFL. Like, Tom Brady's hated by the commissioner. Dude, LeBron can literally make policy changes probably in the NBA.
I agree. He's pretty much a coach at this point, too. So I'm curious how long his career is going to go, because obviously, I personally think he's going to coach after this. If he doesn't, well, either that or a TV.
Oh, fuck it. He's running for president. Are you kidding me? Dude, look at all the things he's doing right now. I'm just saying he'll be a billionaire in our lifetime, easily within probably the next 10 or 15 years with that deal with Nike. The I Promise School out in Cleveland, or no, it's Akron. Sorry. The I Promise School out in Akron, fantastic concept. Love it. But just those type of large-scale community outreach programs, I think, is just only building for him to make real change and to see him get more politically involved in the past probably 5 years. I would say that that's where I see him heading personally. Now, I'm not saying for pro or con for that, but at the same time, I could just see him getting involved at that level just because I love coaching, but you don't see a lot of those high-end players go into coaching anymore.
True. You usually see the game managers like the point guards like Steve Nash, but does he have the charisma? I think he has the charisma to be a TV personality too, but there's quite a few players that become TV personalities and make more money than they ever made in the NFL, like Tony Romo, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Commentating the Super Bowl, and just signed this huge. I can't remember the number. I don't want to butcher it, but
I
signed
think it was like 15 or 20 million a year to stay with CBS.
yeah. Is that more than he made as a average quarterback in the NFL?
I'd almost have to guarantee it just because back then, I mean, he was probably around in the teens because quarterback money was probably around then, back then. But it was really only with Derek Carr and kind of some. Derek Carr was one of the first ones I remember to break that 20 million threshold. Like Tom Brady had broken it at the time, Aaron Rodgers had, but that was kind of when you saw the average good quarterback break that. So I almost dare to say that Romo is making definitely more now.
Well, he's a better commentator than he was a quarterback.
Oh yeah, he doesn't fail in the fourth quarter as a commentator.
I don't think that's a very hot take that he's a better commentator. He can pretty much see the future. He knows the game so well. He can see what's going to happen next during the game.
Well, being an experienced quarterback like that, I think that's something that we're robbed of a lot because you don't see a lot of those high-end quarterbacks. Joe Theismann got in the booth for a bit. You get guys like Ron Jaworski, Phil Simms, Boomer Esiason, guys who in their time I'd say were good quarterbacks, but you probably compare more to like a Phillip Rivers than you would a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning. And like when just watching Peyton's place on ESPN Plus, like watching Peyton Manning just break down film and talk about different guys. Not only does he have the charisma and the moxie, but he's genuinely just an extremely intelligent human being with savant level intelligence at the quarterback position.
Well, as a quarterback, you have to be the smartest person on the field. You have to be able to read the defense. You have to know exactly what's happening at any moment. But one thing I don't get about quarterbacks is how they can feel pressure without seeing it. You don't see it from Kirk Cousins. I'm a Vikings fan. It's one thing I can't stand about him is he can't feel pressure behind him and then fumbles the ball when he gets hit from behind.
Derek Carr, with all the love that I have for him in the world, has had the same problems this year. He was so much better at it. But yeah, you see guys like Rodgers, Mahomes, Deshaun Watson actually is who I'm going to bring up as the number one guy, I think, for just sack escapability because he's been hit so many times. That guy probably feels like someone's coming up on him all the time. So it's probably actually just a natural feeling of he feels like after 4 seconds, he's got to get the fuck out.
Yeah, when you got 300-plus pounders running at you as fast as they possibly can trying to kill you, you got to be a little bit aware of it.
Right. When I look at guys who are bigger than me, and I'm a pretty big dude if you haven't seen me, and then I think of them having world-class athleticism and then running into me, I get a little bit scared. Now, go ahead and take someone who's easily 60 to 100 pounds less than me. Yeah, that's probably pretty scary to think about. And to take that, and I imagine some quarterbacks develop that sense pretty quick, but then, like I said, there's a couple of these quarterbacks who are good, but oblivious.
Oh, yeah. And we're kind of... It's weird that the pocket passer is almost going by the wayside now. Like you see these people like Kirk Cousins who want to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball every time. Tom Brady is the best of them, pocket passers.
I'd say the perfect example.
Oh yeah, he doesn't want to run it, and he would rather just lay down on the ball and go down than try to run it outside and gain some yards. But we see that going by the wayside just with the way the game's evolving. Even with Aaron Rodgers, who's a pure passer, you see him scramble like a madman sometimes. He's pretty dang good at it for being such a good passer. Usually you have to have a little bit of a trade-off like Lamar Jackson, which I don't want to dog on Lamar Jackson's quarterbacking skills because he's still a phenomenal quarterback, but doesn't quite have the touch that like an Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson has. But
well, and literally the next episode that I'm going to be recording is an NFL season recap, so I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, just to kind of drop it down, it's weird when you see quarterbacks like that not get respected because Rodgers, athletically inclined early in his career, can still shift a little bit, but you've always seen that pocket presence. And so over time, it's kind of crazy to see the evolution because I remember when I was a young kid looking back at draft classes and realizing, like these quarterbacks, like they all had the same skill set. They had a great arm. They were 6'5", 230 pounds, but God, they just stuck in the pocket like rocks and, like their legs just never moved. And now to see the evolution of the game to a Patrick Mahomes who's constantly making throws on the run, and then a Lamar Jackson who is by prototype a run-first quarterback. Like I remember the days of Michael Vick when that was just not seen. Like Mike Vick was such a revolution when he came in.
Yeah, nobody knows how to defend it. I'm curious how Lamar or Patrick Mahomes would do back then in that game because they don't like the defenses couldn't plan around it at the time. There was no precedent. You had to have genius defensive minds figure out how to contain the quarterback when they're a threat to run for 15 yards every time.
Well, and that's why Randall Cunningham, you saw, enough early in his career. He had so much success with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's kind of someone, man, I would love to see him in today's NFL. He's almost someone who's out of time. Just because, and also like these Fran Tarkinsons and Kenny the Snake Stabler, guys who were scramblers, not so much runners, but at least scramblers. Because back in the day, like you said, you were just taught to sit in the pocket, make your throw in 3 to 5 seconds. And now today's game is just so much more dynamic. It involves a lot more schoolyard and a little bit less X's and O's. A lot more free verse and kind of making your way as a player. Let alone just the physical talents being jumped on in 10 to 20 years because there was not a quarterback ever in the NFL who ran as fast as Lamar other than Mike Vick.
Right. I like your take on the schoolyard ball. It really feels like it. Did you play the backyard football games back in the day?
Oh, NFL Street 2 was my jam. I still own a copy of it for PS2 without owning a PS2. Just because one day I might get it, and I still have NFL Street 2 for a ROM. Actually, you downloaded for me on my laptop. So still bust it out every now and then.
Oh, yeah. Those are great. They need to remake those so bad.
I remember when we were kids playing, we'd try doing like the behind the back passes or like try to jump off the fence and just fail miserably. But man, when that game came out, that and NBA Street, that was like a cultural revolution. I feel like that did have some sort of cultural impact 15 years later because you see the game, and that is what I would describe Patrick Mahomes as. He is just a Hall of Fame level at schoolyard bullshit.
Yeah, especially with Madden getting so stale. It's the same thing repackaged over and over. It's almost as bad as Call of Duty.
Bring back NFL 2K.
Right. Right, with the crib, my crib and all that stuff. That'd be epic.
That was probably one of the best games. Just sitting there, being able to play darts or flag, or not flag, but paper football in the middle of your crib while listening to music, watch some videos, play some celebrity challenges. ESPN 2K5 is still like the best football
2K5.
game 16 years later, 17 years later.
Classic. Playing against Steve-O's Philly cheesesteaks. Remember that?
Yeah, the Funk Master Flex Funk machines. Or Carmen Electra had a team.
Yeah,
too.
why the heck did Carmen Electra have a team in 2K?
Okay, listen. 10-year-old Cole was not questioning a damn thing about Carmen Electra being in that video game.
Oh, yeah.
26-year-old Cole is not questioning a damn thing about Carmen Electra being in that video game. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold stout right there. But I believe you also had some pretty BS-y random round questions.
Okay, so
you kind of came up with earlier.
Yeah, so I was putting on socks today. Made me think. Are you wearing matching socks today?
I'm wearing matching socks.
Is it only because you worked?
No, it's because this time I was a big boy when I did my laundry, and I actually matched my socks that I would be wearing to work.
Oh, mine always go into a bin. I never wear matching socks. Maybe that's just like the chaotic part of me.
They're all black, so they match technically. I don't actually match them usually, but these ones do match by pair.
Technically.
All
right, so my next question to you is hard seltzer. Should men be drinking hard seltzer?
100%.
I agree.
100%.
I don't know why there's this stigma that dudes can't drink White Claws, but they're delicious. They're low calorie. I don't feel hungover near as bad in the morning as when I drink liquor or something like that.
Yeah, this is an equality-driven podcast, so I believe women can do most things that men can and do a lot of the other things better than men can. But men can fucking damn right drink seltzer. We can drink fruity drinks. We can drink iced coffees. We can do any of those things because they taste good. And just because I was born with an attachment that does half my thinking does not mean that I cannot enjoy hard seltzer or some of the finer things in life that have been stereotyped as female-specific things.
It's 2021.
Exactly.
What we want.
Yeah. If you can switch everything around and we're accepting everybody nowadays, except men drinking hard seltzers.
Exactly. And so, next question.
Actually, hold on 1 second. What is your hard seltzer flavor, though, for you?
Oh, my personal favorite is grapefruit. I don't care what brand it is. Grapefruit is the way to go. It's just bitter enough, but just sweet enough.
Kaylin, she's got this look on her face. She's just shaking her head. She's like, no.
She goes with the super sweet ones.
Yeah, like I go with blackberry because blackberry slaps whether it's
blackberry
a Sucker, Jolly Rancher. Blackberry is just a solid flavor.
Can't go wrong with watermelon either. Watermelon anything.
Oh, watermelon anything just slaps. All right, so now that we're past the seltzer stage, what is your next question?
All right, I got two more. Why are donuts okay for breakfast, but frowned upon if you eat cold pizza for breakfast or even cake for breakfast? Like, donuts are just cake, dude.
I think it's one of these stereotyped things where along the way we decided to put certain foods and certain just things in specific groups. And yeah, donuts are one of those things because it's literally breakfast cake.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's delicious. I would eat it any time as a dessert.
Hey, that's also probably the flip side question. Why are donuts not more, accepted as desserts?
Yeah, why is it a morning thing? I'm not a morning person, so I barely ever get donuts. It makes me sad.
Right? Like Daylight Donuts is probably closed by the time you even wake up, and they're right down the street from your
Oh,
house.
Daylight Donuts is so good. We used to have I'm shouting out Daylight Donuts in Rapid City here.
Hard shout.
On St. Patrick Street. Amazing. I think the first couple weeks that they were open, they sold out. Like, they're open till like noon or 1 or something like that. They were sold out by like 10:30 a.m.
I remember when they first opened up, we tried after our sales meeting one morning, and we could only get like an 8-pack because they were trying to stretch it out to like 10 o'clock. We're like, it's 8:30 in the morning. They're like, yeah, sorry. And we're like, we don't even have enough donuts for all of our salesmen. Like, what the hell?
Back in like 2003, 2004, back in Aberdeen, we used to have a small Daylight Donuts. It ended up closing because they didn't get enough business, but one popped up out here, and oh my goodness, they're so good.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing too. Also going back to a little bit of a disrespected thing, one thing that I've always loved that I don't think is ever caught on anywhere, donuts and ice cream.
Donuts and ice cream, sounds delicious.
Dude, it slaps. It's so good.
It's just like cake and ice cream.
Exactly, but like I feel like donuts are almost a little bit better than cake because they're frosted on the outside too most of the times. Like if you get a solid just blueberry donut and a little bit of vanilla bean ice cream with it.
Is that your go-to, blueberry?
Hands down.
Blueberry cake donuts. If you haven't tried the blueberry cake donuts at Daily Donuts in Rapid, oh my goodness, they're the best ones.
Yeah, that was cheat day was Saturday for me, and so that was what I was allowed for like my breakfast that day was a blueberry cake donut. Either that or apple fritters are my go-to.
Apple fritters, they're pretty good.
Apple fritters are the hate or love. You either don't like apple fritters or you're like me and I usually do an apple fritter.
On the same lines with cake, one thing I had never heard of till Caitlin and I started dating is she puts cake in a bowl and puts milk on it.
So that is one I always heard of, but I never saw until she did it because I think we had some leftover birthday cake when we were all living together, and she came home with it wasn't hers, it was somebody's. But she came over and like we're sitting downstairs, you're on your computer, I'm gaming, we're watching TV, and she just plops down on the couch, and I pause and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And she's just like, "Cake," and I'm just like, "Is that milk in there?" She's like, yeah. Have you like never tried this before?" And I'm like, "No, who puts cake and milk together?" It's actually really good, so don't knock it until you try it, but it's just one of those really weird things that you just don't realize how cool it is until you actually try it.
With my family, we put Kraft singles on banana bread with some butter and cheese on top. I've heard of putting cheese on apple pie.
Interesting.
Also.
Yeah, I've heard of cheese on some very odd things. My stepdad being from Wisconsin, that fucker likes cheese in like an unreal type of way, but I've never heard cheese on banana bread or apple pie.
Hey, if you've never tried it on banana bread, put some butter on it, put some cheese on it. I don't knock it till you try it. Everyone thinks it's so weird, but it is delicious.
So Kraft singles, like the regular Kraft singles.
Yeah, any of those singles with the plastic packaging on them, the super processed cheese.
God, that is hella interesting.
Yeah, delicious.
That is super interesting. So cheese on banana bread, cheese on apple pie, cake with milk, and donuts with ice cream are going to be the things that we recommend you try at least one of them here in the next couple of weeks. Change your fucking life.
We got to try that. Let's do that later. But
okay, yeah. Apparently, we're also going to give a shout out here to Jamie fucking Harris. That's going to be that's going to be Caitlin's dad. He's probably the most legendary just party dad of all time. Most mild-mannered gentleman you'll ever meet. Nicest guy. Refuses to not pay for dinner every time we go out. But on Caitlin's 21st birthday, we ended up meeting him at a now defunct restaurant. What was it? New York Native Grill. Really good wing restaurant that was here in town. Just wasn't popular and their service kind of sucked. But yeah, so he takes us out, and this is a Sunday where football's on. So we go out, we have lunch, and then they join us down at Joe's place. And between Jamie and my parents and everybody, just it being Caitlin's 21st birthday, we got schmacked. I believe, yeah, I still only remember about half that night. It ended pretty interestingly, but ever since then, Jamie Harris has just been a legend. We call him Jamie fucking Harris for a reason. So shout out Jamie. We absolutely love you. Thank you for cake and milk.
Well, he's the whole reason I picked this left-handed brewing, because he loves any left-hand brewing beer.
Oh,
he's got a shirt, he's got a growler, he's got a mug. It's all about that left hand.
So yeah, shout out Jamie Harris. Definitely the specific love of this podcast and our whole entire friend group. It's like almost unnatural. We tell Caitlin that like the boys love her dad more than she does.
I believe it.
Not true at all, but obviously we got a special affection for Jamie. We really do.
He's the man.
He is. So yeah, leading on to the last question here. What is your last odd putting on the socks question?
So, just another thing I thought of. So, growing up in South Dakota, we're all about guns and farms and all that stuff. Have you ever blown anything up with tannerite?
I want to, but no, actually.
Yeah,
It's surprising.
It's a huge wedding thing. For one summer, I went to 3 weddings, or 3 bachelor parties, I guess. And every single one, we were blowing up some sort of appliance with tannerite. 2 times it was a fridge. 1 time it was a washing machine. And you just throw it in the appliance, put a little X on where it's at, and you aim for that, and you shoot it. When you shoot that thing, it boom, straight up in the air. So much fun. It's legal explosive. That's what it is. But it can only be ignited by shooting it, or like with something like ballistic force.
Yeah, some sort of like projectile ballistic.
Dude, you have to try it sometime.
So what is the craziest thing you've blown up with tannerite?
I think the washing machine was the coolest one.
So that was probably my first thought, was like either washing machine, dryer, or refrigerator. Like get the big ones in there.
Oh yeah, and pieces of that went flying.
Pieces, so like it went apart?
Oh yeah, it blew all the panels off the sides, and like it was still recognizable, but you had to go retrieve all the pieces afterwards.
Dude, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
definitely would recommend, because I think
Oh, so Paulie just said sometime we might need to be getting some tannerite.
let's blow up a
Little
toilet.
handgun. I am so down to blow up a toilet.
Yes.
Just seeing the ceramics go everywhere.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, that'd be
Probably
fucking
gonna be like a
nuts.
frag grenade with like shards everywhere. I want to stand really far away.
That's going to be the first live feed that Top Wave Studios and Beers and Bullshit do together. Is we're just going to get a bunch of beers. We're going to get the boys together. We'll get Joe. We'll get Ty. We'll get Paulie here. Fuck it. We'll get actual Paulie, and then we'll get Paul. Different people there. But yeah, we'll just get all the boys together and just fuck some shit up. Blow up a toilet and God, whatever else. I want to blow up an outhouse now too.
I mean, I blow up toilets, but not in that aspect.
Oh, all the time. Especially after the Chinese buffet. What up?
Oh yeah.
Oh, man, that is fantastic. God, I just really want to blow shit up with Tanner right now. That's all I want to do. Like, leaving here, it's like, what are you supposed to do with the rest of your night? I don't know. I'm going to go blow shit up. Seems like the American thing to do.
That's the South Dakotan thing to do.
Yeah, hands down. Is it really any more American than South Dakota? Just kidding, because fuck our governor. But still, pretty free out here for the most part. Well, all right. Is that all you have for your weird questions of the day?
That's all I have for you, Cole.
All good, all good. Well, guys, we're probably going to go ahead and wrap up the podcast here a little bit. I just want to thank Joe for coming on. Caitlin as well, who's here in the background. You'll definitely hear from her. We're going to have to get some Girls Cast. Well, I don't know what we can do besides beers and bullshit. It have to be wine and I don't know.
Wine and bullshit.
Yeah, wine and bullshit. Fuck it. Yeah, we could try some cider. We could, wine and whispers. Well, we'll just sit here and we'll just do the podcast really intimately, like one of those quiet, soft talk podcasts. Oh, yeah, nothing would be more. See, that's what I really want to do. I want to get like you, Whitney, and like one other person in here, get drunk and just go. Like I'll literally just direct it and let y'all talk because the girls got some shit to lay down. I mean, listen to like Call Me Daddy or like any of these other female podcasts, man, they're way better than the dudes' podcast half the time. It's awesome. Because women just don't give a shit, man. They're like, all right, here's my opinion, and fuck you if you don't like it. Which is kind of like me. Not saying I identify as that, but just saying like we got some things in common here, all right? So. But no, definitely tune in next time. So next time we are going to be doing a podcast reviewing the NFL season. My good buddy Jace, who is actually going to be a fairly consistent co-host of the show, is going to be joining me here. First couple ones. His bougie ass just decided to go on vacation to Mexico about the time that I was starting this podcast. So he was like, yeah, I'll start up, just later on down the road. So Jace, love you. Just been waiting for you. But he's going to go ahead and come on the podcast. We're going to be recording tomorrow, hopefully dropping on Sunday. But just want to sign off here once again on behalf of Topway Studios, Beers and Bullshit. This is Cole, and we are out.